All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cracking open something incredibly special. It's a highly classified source document known as the Lagos Framework. Think of it as a literal playbook for building indestructible, long-duration wealth. Now, to really make sense of this, I want you to step into a specific role with me. I'm your mentoring investment analyst. And you? You're the designated successor. You're my daughter, and you're about to inherit this massive, complex legacy. So treat this explainer as your own private briefing on a civilizational operating system. Let's dive in.
So we have to start with a big one, the central question that literally drives everything we do. How do we build wealth that outlasts empires? Because honestly, the statistics out there are terrifying. Did you know 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by just the second generation? And by the third, it's 90% gone. So the stakes here, they aren't just about keeping you rich for a few decades. We're talking about securing a generational inheritance that can weather economic crashes, massive political shifts, and, well, just the simple passage of time. The absolute heroic outcome we're aiming for here is true financial immortality. We are not building some basic trust fund, we are building an indestructible institution.
But to build that kind of permanence, we absolutely have to reject the default settings of modern capitalism. Look at traditional finance. It's completely optimized for extraction. It's constantly chasing quarterly yields, aggressive leverage, and quick exits. It's basically a temporary sugar rush. Our system, the Lagos Framework, is entirely different. We optimize for systemic durability. The main feature we care about is permanent capacity. We want an engine that stays operational and generative across civilizational timescales, not just the next fiscal quarter, right? We don't extract, we compound. Okay, so how do we actually achieve that permanence? We use what we call the intergenerational flywheel. It's this beautiful, indestructible loop. It kicks off with phase one, talent. We go out and source elite, top-tier operators who have been forged under serious pressure. That talent directly feeds phase two, company, which is where we build and acquire new ventures. Those ventures then lay down phase three, infrastructure. These are the physical and digital rails that make us completely indispensable. Then all of this is protected by phase four, governance. Think of it as our immune system. And finally, this whole process generates phase five, wealth. But here's the kicker. That wealth isn't extracted so we can just go buy luxury yachts. No, it gets poured right back into funding phase one, the talent. The massive benefit of this closed loop is that you literally never run out of human or financial capital. It just powers itself. Forever. Now, zooming in on phase two, how are we actually creating value out there? Well, we operate three primary value engines. Engine one is succession. Imagine a huge legacy family business facing a really messy generational handover. The kind that usually ends in bitter lawsuits over Thanksgiving dinner. We step in, modernize their governance, digitize their operations, and basically save the business without erasing their unique family culture. Engine two is incubation. This one's fun. We build brand new ventures completely from scratch, using that elite talent we talked about, and we back them with permanent capital. Finally, engine three is enterprise. This is where we track down brilliant operators who have decades of specialized, hidden knowledge locked in their heads. We act as midwives, extracting that knowledge to build hyper-targeted, purpose-built ventures around it. All three of these engines solve massive real-world problems and generate incredible value. And here's the genius part. No matter which of those three engines we deploy to help a business, we always demand the exact same unified reward. First up, a minority permanent equity stake. We literally never sell it. We hold it forever to let it compound. Second, one governance seat. Now, we don't sit on the board to micromanage them. We just need to make sure they stay aligned with our core values. And third, infrastructure integration rights. This is a massive feature. It means we have the right to plug their business directly into our own payment systems and data rails. It creates this incredibly powerful web that integrates every single thing we touch. But listen, with all that power and deep integration, you absolutely need a compass. We do not rely on fluffy, meaningless corporate mission statements. We use the Lagos laws. I want you to think of this as the institution's unhackable firewall. The source document actually describes them as a hierarchical cybernetic code, which is just a fancy way of saying they are strict, absolute rules with a very clear, unbreakable order of priority. Every single investment, every operational move we ever make gets run through these laws. If a deal violates the code, we kill the deal. Period. End of discussion. Let me give you the absolute most important example. Law 1, the human dignity imperative.
This law states that our technology and our capital must explicitly expand human capability. It must never, ever render humans obsolete, disposable, or economically invisible. So if an amazing, super profitable tech pitch comes across my desk, but its whole business model relies on treating human workers like disposable cogs, it fails Law 1. We walk away without a second thought. We are here to build wealth that fiercely defends human dignity for sure, not wealth that destroys it. Now let's talk about our defensive treasury. Our philosophy here is pretty simple. We invest locally to build strength, and we invest globally to gather intelligence. Let me give you a practical use case. We hold stock in GT Bank. That's a local Nigerian priority. It deepens our codependency with our home market and gives us boots-on-the-ground financial intelligence exactly where we operate. On the flip side, we might hold NVIDIA globally. But we don't hold NVIDIA just hoping to make a quick buck on a stock pop. We hold it because AI infrastructure is strategically critical to running our local engines. You see, we invest defensively and strategically. We are constantly turning global intelligence into local power. So what happens if we want to take our capital and invest it heavily outside of our primary African market? Well, that triggers our global exception protocol. And it all comes down to one massive number, 3x. For us to take money out of our local ecosystem and deploy it globally, the projected returns have to be at least 3 times higher than what we could get at home. And even if it clears that massive hurdle, it comes with a strict reinvestment covenant. A huge percentage of those global profits must be pre-committed to flow right back into our African infrastructure. The absolute beauty of this? It completely prevents capital flight. We never, ever abandon our base. I want you to really internalize this phrase. You left Lagos to build the arsenal. You came back to deploy it. You're out there right now gaining global knowledge and a world-class education. But the goal is not for you to stay comfortably hidden in the financial centers of the West. The goal is to bring that weaponry, that intellectual arsenal, back home to our foundation, which actually transitions us perfectly into how we actively defend all these hard-won assets once they're built. Because make no mistake, when you build wealth on this scale, people are going to try to take it. We protect ourselves using what the framework calls defensive architecture. First up, we use a stateless balance sheet. Our assets are legally distributed across a wide global network. If some hostile government tries to seize one of our nodes, we can literally amputate it and the whole system just keeps on living. Second, we use asymmetric neutrality. In plain English, we build critical infrastructure, like payment networks and energy grids, that the host nation desperately relies on. The massive benefit here is that we make our positive contributions so absolutely vital that trying to destroy us would crash their own economy. Our absolute best defense is just being indispensable. Now, to interpret those strict laws we talked about and keep us on track, we have the High Council of Arbitrators. Honestly, you can just think of them as our Jedi Council. It's a group of 5 to 9 brilliant builders and philosophers, and they hold the ultimate veto over how we spend our money. But look, humans are flawed, we know that. So the framework includes a hardcore anti-corruption architecture. There are mandatory cooling-off periods before council members can actually work in the operating businesses. And their major rulings, they all have sunset clauses, meaning they have to be formally re-argued every 15 years. We essentially keep them honest by design, turning what could be human weakness into a massive structural strength. And all of this structural strength is deeply anchored in our specific runtime environment. Africa is the formation environment. Lagos is the institutional heartbeat. You might wonder, why not Wall Street? Why not Silicon Valley? Well, because comfort breeds weakness. The framework argues that the high-entropy, extreme pressure environment of Africa is actually our greatest competitive moat. It forces our operators to master improvisation, to navigate unimaginable complexity, and to thrive under systemic pressure. We forge diamonds, sweetie, because we operate under immense pressure. You just can't buy that kind of talent. It has to be forged. But we have to ask, what if the unthinkable happens? What if the institution loses its way, becomes corrupt, and turns into the exact kind of predatory monster we set out to defeat? Well, we have a failure protocol. It is, quite literally, a self-destruct failsafe. If we flagrantly violate our core laws, it triggers an automatic audit within 30 days. We have to correct the error, and we have to do it publicly. If we can't, the entire leadership council is dissolved and replaced. And if even that fails to fix the rot, we initiate an orderly dissolution. We give all the remaining wealth away to a talent endowment. True institutional strength is looking yourself in the mirror and saying you are absolutely willing to destroy the institution rather than let it corrupt its own values. And honestly, this right here is exactly why we look so completely alien compared to the rest of Wall Street. A standard family office exists for one reason, to extract wealth so the heirs can buy mega yachts and real estate.
But what you're inheriting is a beneficiary architecture. Yes, we are a multi-generational wealth engine, but we are bound by a civilizational duty. This wealth is a tool. It's a tool to protect human dignity and build vital infrastructure. It is definitely not just a personal piggy bank meant to spoil our descendants. Which brings us to a rule that some people find really hard to swallow: the dividend cap. As the owning family, we only ever take a 5% to 8% dividend of the profits. That's it. That's the cap. The other 92% to 95%, it is strictly locked up and reinvested right back into that flywheel to compound forever. This disciplined cap is absolutely crucial. It guarantees that the vast majority of our wealth is permanently working out there for the mission. We don't exist to bleed this institution dry, we exist to steward it. Now, as your mentor, I have to make sure we plan for the absolute worst-case scenario. What if a branch of our family simply dies out? What if, down the line, there are 0 descendants left? For that, we have the extinct line protocol. The equity never ever leaks out to outsiders or creditors. First, it automatically passes to any surviving founding family lines. If there's only one line left, they absorb it. But what if our entire family line goes totally extinct? The institution doesn't just fold. The equity converts completely into a civilizational trust. The mission survives perfectly intact, doing its work even if we are no longer here to see it. As we wrap up this briefing, I want to leave you with a profound sense of institutional humility. Inside the framework, they call this the honest wager. We are making a massive, audacious bet here. We are betting that this entire system, our flywheel, our strict laws, can actually out-select human greed across hundreds of years. We're placing a wager that future generations will honor this compact. Now, is it guaranteed? No, absolutely not. But identifying our own failure modes, staring them in the face, and talking about them openly like this, that's our most powerful feature. It keeps us awake, it keeps us vigilant. So, as your mentor passing down this blueprint, this is my final challenge to you. You aren't just taking over a business spreadsheet. You are stepping into a massive engine designed to protect civilizational capacity itself. We are offering a real, durable alternative to a short-term world that is currently driving itself right off a cliff. The framework is ready. The arsenal has been built. So I have to ask you, are you ready to redefine what the market is actually for?